Yes.
Even though it's early in the morning, but you have joined before me, so
Well, yes, but I've got to get
I love.
organised. I have to be organised, don't I? I don't want to be late, and so yes, I have to be. I have to make sure I have everything I'm supposed to have, and
Brilliant. We are, what I understand from Kazi is that our chat is not enabled today.
Oh, that's fine.
So yeah, so which means probably we'll have to find a different way.
Yeah.
To
So maybe.
communicate. Or
Yeah, it's not.
This was the first time Kazi or Simfotix is trying to do it on Teams, and that's the first hurdle they faced.
What do you normally use?
Zoom.
Yeah, we normally use Zoom for all of ours. I find Teams a bit clunky.
It is.
It's a bit. It's in fact, I have a meeting next week with the head of media, with Peter Williams, and yeah, he said, "Can we not do it on Teams? Can you do it on Zoom?" We'll do it on Zoom, but we'll get through it. It'll be fine. You can still raise hand function still works by the looks of it. So
it does, but I don't know how they will communicate that.
Yeah. Chat in channel meetings is only available to team members. Right, so not to guests then. That sounds like a settings thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, something to do with that. I see we have more people joining in right now, which is, I guess they are listening to our chat as well.
Well, that's lovely.
Yes, we are.
Oh, who said that?
Okay, so the good thing is that if the chat function is not working, the mics are working, which is great.
Yes, because I can't mime this. It'll be good. Oh, we've got a lot of people. That's lovely.
That's great. We will just wait for the right time to start. You are currently in lockdown?
Yes. Most of my life, it feels like. Yes, we are in lockdown, and we don't have a date for coming out. I was talking to the Malaysian team yesterday, and they're going to be in lockdown at least to the end of the month. But they've given up giving us a date. It's going to be until we stop, spreading this virus, I suppose.
That's quite challenging.
Yeah, I would think it's going to be. It wouldn't surprise me if it wasn't to the end of February.
Well, just to make you feel better, the weather outside is too cold. Anyways.
But your definition of too cold and my definition of too cold. Out there today, it's you can hear the wind, and it's about 2 degrees for me. So I wouldn't want to go out anyway.
True. All right. We got people joining us, which is great. Our chat has been recorded as well, so which is great. We can always go back and see what we were feeling in these lockdowns.
Hello.
Hi, hello.
Hello.
Hi, Sharon.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Hi, Radha. How are you?
Thanks. How are you?
Very well, thank you. We are currently live, just FYI. and we somehow have a challenge with the chat function, but everybody's mic is working.
Okay, that's great.
So I guess if there is a question, we can hold that question till the end. And we have now Kazi joining us, so I'll let him take rules.
Hi Sharon again. Hi Irada, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So Naman, I think we can still wait for some time.
Yeah, another 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And in terms of the structure, so shall we present? Is there any button that we can share the content from our laptop? We can use. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's open share tray.
Okay.
I always find it challenging to work myself around Teams.
It's on the top right, next to the mic. Okay.
Yes, I got it.
Well, it's better to say something. I mean, it's just too quiet.
Well, I'm fascinated by, is that a picture, or is that somebody's actual view out of their apartment or their office? So Shinto, I think that's an absolutely fascinating, but lovely.
That's amazing background, I guess.
It is. Do you think it's a background? Could be.
I've seen that background,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, unless they live together, but yes. But we certainly have a fascinating topic on our side today.
That's the sunshine. That's what it looks like. I haven't seen that in months. Oh,
we are getting great
where
news.
we are here on the go.
So this is live from Bahrain in the Middle East.
Great.
This is how winter, a sunny winter. I'm not. اسمح لي. The guy is telling me I'm not supposed to. I guess this is the court, so I'm not supposed to shoot the court. Okay, lovely to be with you guys. Looking forward for the seminar.
Thank you so much, and great to see Bahrain. Sharon, I love the name Discover Your Bounce.
It's my business partner thought of that. It many years ago, so 7 or 8 years ago, I think. And so I joined the company as a non-exec director. So yeah, and then I tend to get hands-on. I tend to think, oh, that looks interesting, and away you go.
Yeah, that's great. Kazi, shall we kick off?
Yeah, I think it's 12:30 and we can start now. So Irada, Karen, Sharon, sorry. So you are ready? Your mic, video, presentations. So shall we start?
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Irada, for joining us. And formally, thank you, Noman. Thank you, Sharon. I'm Kazi from Simfotix Professional and Development Training. And I welcome all the participants who have joined from UAE, from Saudi, from Bahrain, from Kuwait and UK. And Egypt. I can also see some names from Egypt. So welcome all of you from different parts and regions of the world.
Thank you.
Are facing right now, and it will be really great to have a viewpoint of two experts. We have Sharon, who is the director of Discover Your Bounce Group UK, and we have Irada today with us, who is the MENA Diversity and Inclusiveness Lead, Ernst & Young. I would also like to introduce Noman, who is the CFO Bait.com, and who is also member of ACCA Global Advisory Board. So welcome, Noman. I will give the floor to Noman now because Noman is also the moderator of the day. So maybe this is my last few words for the next 1.5 hours, and the floor is all for Noman. One important announcement I would like to make. Somehow the chat is not enabled. We have some error function in it. So we will be having Q&As for both the presenters, and you can unmute your mic and then you can post your questions on the floor. However, myself and my team is here, so if there is any distortion, so we will be controlling the mute and unmute of the mic as well. Thank you, and Noman, please welcome your speakers and introduce them in detail. I have just taken the names and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kazi, and thank you everyone who's joined us today. It's good afternoon and good morning in different parts of the world. So as Kazi has already briefed us, we have a great session today on how to build resilience and thrive and getting ready for 2021. We have some great speakers today on board with us, and Sharon is also a fellow council member on ACCA board as well. With me, she is a popular conference speaker and a writer in areas of emotional intelligence, diversity, and future of work, as well as a range of well-being topics, using her 30 years of experience in regulatory compliance and of growing businesses in financial sector. Sharon now specializes in developing senior leaders and helping businesses to grow their people capability. And we have Irada. She is working as a MENA diversity and inclusiveness leader with EY MENA, a chartered MCIPD qualified and influential and inclusive leader with passion in unveiling the human side of business, increasing a sense of belonging, work-life flexibility. So looking forward to hearing from both of you today. And just to set the scene up, as we have been talking about the World Economic Forum Future of Jobs, and we've been looking at the top 10 skills highlighted to be in demand by employers in the years to come. Active learning, resilience have been highlighted as top 10 among leadership and social influence, technology use and design, and analytical thinking. So today's session is also about active learning, and this is just our way of communicating with everyone, and everyone who's participating today is now amongst the few people who have already taken on board the idea of active learning, and we'll learn more from our speakers. So I will hand it over now to Sharon to lead us through our first session, and then we'll have a quick Q&A session, and then we'll have Irada will be speaking on the topic as well. So looking forward to hearing and learning and understanding some great insight from both of you. Over to you, Sharon.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Is that it?
I think it's coming. You have already shared, Sharon?
Yes. Can you see my screen? Can you see my slides?
Not yet.
No. Okay.
Maybe in a minute.
Okay, so it's that one. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Can you see them?
No. Make and trendy. Remove spotlight.
Not yet.
No? Okay.
No.
I'm sorry about this. It's right, let's try again. Let's go for open share.
Yes.
Yes, we can see it now.
You can see it now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's what we like. And actually, resilience is all about this, isn't it? It's about persistence. It's about what you do all of the time. Sometimes it's about not giving up. And I think we've all learned a few things from Zoom, Teams, and all these various things about resilience. So this morning, did you get to work and look like this? Were you bouncy? Did you have the whole world in front of you? You were enthusiastic, excited, and within 10 minutes, was it more like this? Did you get an email? A colleague come in and start moaning, or start on the Zoom and the Zoom's not really working, and then this isn't happening and that doesn't go well, and it can take an absolutely amazing day and turn it into a nightmare very quickly. And the thing with resilience is actually being able to spot when this is happening, and rather than dwelling in that, do something about it. Because the thing is, if we spend too much of our time under a blanket of stress and difficulty, then we can end up spending our weekend time and our spare time just trying to get more sleep, just trying to keep up, trying to catch up. And life becomes more of a struggle. And a lot of the joy in life can be lost. And I would argue, as it was said at the beginning, active learning, resilience, all of these things, they all come together to make the modern worker. And the modern worker needs to be creative. And if you're spending most of your day getting stressed, just struggling to keep going, and then your downtime, you're just exhausted and you're trying to keep things together, then to be honest, how creative are you going to be? Now, I appreciate there's going to be quite a lot of accountants on this call thinking, I'm an accountant, I don't think I'm allowed to be creative. You're absolutely right in some respects, but in other respects, remember, being creative is about finding other solutions. It's about expanding how you see a problem and looking at it from lots of different ways. And that can be incredibly difficult when you're exhausted. And would it be great to have energy for this? Because isn't that what life's about? It's about getting out there and it's about enjoying yourself. So a little bit about me. So my name's Sharon Crichlow, and as it was said at the beginning, yes, I am an accountant. I've been an accountant since qualified in 1996, and I've been on the Global Council at ACCA for the last 4 years. I also sit on the regulatory board at ACCA. Now, I've spent a long time working in offices, dealing with compliance and dealing with regulatory issues. That was most of my story. But that wasn't all of my story. And in fact, for quite a few years, I suffered from chronic fatigue syndrome. And for anybody who's been listening to the impact of COVID around the world will appreciate that long COVID, where people lose their energy entirely and everything drags on, it becomes very difficult, that those feelings are very similar to the ones I had for a decade. And I can tell you, it's very difficult to become creative, particularly when you have your own business, which I did. I grew a multi-million-pound financial services company. And it's very difficult to think of different ways to approach markets, how you're going to bring your team together when there's a problem, and all of these things when you just get up in the morning and you feel done in before you've even started. So a lot of what I'm going to tell you today has been proven by me, and not just by me, my business partner, Nikki. Now, when I came out of my previous business, I was going to try and retire, and that didn't quite work for me because I got a bit bored and I ended up in Discover Your Bounce. And part of the reason why I joined forces with Nikki is that at 40, she had a stroke. And at 50 now, she's absolutely back and bouncing, and you wouldn't believe that she'd ever had anything wrong with her. So we combined our thoughts, and we came up with some interesting ideas around how to get on top of your health, your well-being, and really learn to be resilient and to thrive. Now, I've got some statistics here, and these are statistics from the UK, but they're pretty consistent around the world on what stress does to you. So if you've got 10 people and they're all stressed in your team, 8 of them will have difficulty concentrating. Now, if you're dealing with technical things, that isn't a very good idea. 6 of them will take longer to do their job. And if you're charging by the hour, that means you're going to be writing off hours all over the place. 5 of them are likely to be unhelpful to your customers. And in this day and age, people expect a certain level of service. They don't just defer to accountants or professionals and say, oh, well, no, you're the great. They expect a level of service. And 3 of them are likely to pick fights with the rest of the team. So actually being able to spot stress and deal with it and help your team to deal with it will make them easier to concentrate and much more creative in how they find solutions for your clients. Hopefully it'll mean fewer write-offs when it comes to their time and more profit for you. And also, isn't it just going to be nicer to work with people who are happy? So the things that we came up with are the 4 elements of well-being, and I'm going to quickly go through some of these today. So the first one is mental calm and resilience. So we're talking about what's actually going on in your head here, about having a busy brain and then deciding how to deal with that busy brain. So the sort of brain where you can't sleep at night. Sometimes you're waking up in the night and thinking, oh, and I've got to do this and I've got to do that. And you're spending all your energy worrying about things and not actually doing things. Then your physical health. And I think people understand, you talk about well-being, they talk about going to the gym, they talk about going running. We appreciate physical health is a part of the overall package, but also is what we call spirit, which is happiness, creativity and community. Now, during these lockdown times, how many people have really missed, if you've been in a lockdown situation, you've been unable to go out, or maybe some of the social venues you go to have been closed or restricted. How have you felt being removed to some extent from your community, maybe from your families? I know here in the UK at the moment, we're on a stay-at-home order, and people are struggling terribly from not being able to see friends and family, but also, and that impacts their well-being if they can't find a way forward for that, but also being unhappy and being uncreative. These are things which, when you put them all together, it doesn't make for a very fulfilling life, and it doesn't make for a very fulfilling workplace. Pardon me. But also, the final one here is understanding your goals and striving forwards, and we're certainly going to do a bit more on that today. And that's about your vision, because we're at the start of a brand new year. And, you know, what can I say? COVID-19 was so 2020. So as the world emerges, hopefully in 2021, you have a new opportunity. And I would argue that you have an opportunity every day to make a difference to yourself, to make a difference to your business. So let's start, shall we? So mind. Do you have a full mind, a busy brain, or are you mindful and zen? Are you able to let go of things at the end of the day? Now, one of the things that we often find with people, particularly with people who work in offices, is that things are going on all the time. It's busy brain, it's stress, it's, oh, and I must do this, and I must do this, and I must do this. And the problem with that is a bit like, I think of it as being a bit like a computer where you've got every program open, and as a result, none of them work very well. They're all sluggish, it's taking up too much bandwidth, it's taking up too much space. And so have a think about what you can do to switch off your mind. Now, if you are if you're working from home a lot at the moment, or you're sometimes in the office, sometimes not, or you're trying to deal with people who, like in our situation in the UK, are half and half, or you've got people all around the world and they're in various different stages of this, you might want to think about where your boundaries are. Because what tends to happen, particularly if you work from home a lot, is that work expands out into your home life, and there is no end to one and start to the other. So one way of dealing with busy brain is to have that time at whatever time you choose, and say, well, from that point I won't work, but to make that clear to everybody. So one of the management techniques that I often say to senior leaders is, there's this great word, it's one of the first words you probably said, and it's very difficult to say when you get past a certain level, or in a family situation or a work situation, which is no. So learning when to use the word no. So are you going to be working past this time? No, I'm not doing that. And an understanding that if you form that boundary, you will have some proper downtime. If you have some proper downtime, when you go back to what you're doing, you will have a fresh mind. And it may seem very difficult to actually put in the word no sometimes, or you won't want to dress it up as, can I deal with that tomorrow? Or I'll sort that out later in the week for you, but I've definitely got that on the list, or however you need to put that together to make it work. But think about boundaries, and think about, I mean, we could go into mindfulness and meditation, and maybe that's something for another day, but mindfulness in itself means just doing one thing at a time well. And a little mindful exercise you can do to give your brain a rest is when you're having your lunch later, or maybe after this, is to concentrate just on that. Don't do it whilst playing on your phone. Just concentrate on your meal. Concentrate on what it smells like, what it looks like, what it tastes like, and eat it slowly. Eat it purposefully. Because what that will do is it will zone everything that you have, all of your senses, onto that one thing. And it will give all of the rest of your cognitive brain that does all of the adding, calculating and everything else, a rest. So the more times you can have those mindful moments and focus on that one thing in a total way with all of your senses, the easier things will be for you. Now, with body, what can I say? Yes, go for a walk, go for a run, but also have a think about your sleep, because this is something else that people, we do it every night, or we try to, but is it any good? Are you sleeping throughout the night? Are you having difficulty getting to sleep? All of these things are going to take away your energy and take away from you being able to achieve what you want to achieve this year. So think about having a routine when you go to bed. So think about going to bed at the same time every night. Think about the environment that you're in there. Is it dark enough? Is it warm enough or cool enough? And don't have your phone pinging all the time. Put it somewhere else, or put it on silent. And think about what you're saying to yourself as well when you go to sleep. So what I mean by this is, if you want to switch off the, oh, and I need to remember this, oh, I need to remember that, write down your gratitudes at the end of the day. So as you go to sleep, write it down, or think about it in your mind about the things that you are grateful for. So, and you may think, oh, I don't know, where do I start? So think about the fact that you have a bed to lie in, the fact that you are safe at home, the fact you have a home, the fact that maybe you have a family, maybe people love you and you have a job. So think about these things. You had food today. There's people in the world who won't have food today. So think about the things that you are truly grateful for, and remind yourself of that. And what it does is it slightly changes your hormonal balance in your brain, which then helps you to relax and will hopefully give you a much better night's sleep. So then when we think about spirit, have a think about your emotional health. Now, I talk an awful lot about emotional intelligence, and you may want to do a bit of research on that, because it's a very interesting thing if you want to really embrace your life and to take it in a slightly different direction, particularly if you want to get promoted and things like that. But think about creativity. Think about arts, crafts, music. Think about all of those other those other pursuits, because what they do is they use a different part of your brain again. So I used to be a Latin American competition dancer before I was an accountant. And I can honestly say that if I stood there watching, as my tutor taught me, watching her feet, doing this, doing that, it would be ridiculous. I couldn't actually make it flow properly. And in order to make it flow, I learned that it wasn't the cognitive adding, calculating part of my brain that did that. It's a different part that actually deals with motion. So I would learn to just watch it, absorb it and do it and not think about it. And that's what makes you a good dancer. And actually that's where your creativity comes from, different part of your brain. So think about, did you like drawing as a child? Did you like painting? Was it music? Was it dancing? What is it? But do something that's a little bit creative. And that will actually give you a different type of boost and sometimes a different type of perspective. I quite often do gardening if I have a difficult technical question to deal with, because again, different parts of my brain using my body in a different way. And as a result, that can actually give my cognitive brain a bit of a rest so that it can then come back refreshed and find the answers that I want. And also I've got on here community. If you are or have been in some sort of lockdown or restricted situation, or even if not, connect with people. And I think this is great that we're in a community here today, that just connect with people, keep talking to people. Think of a reason to text a friend today. Think of a reason to set up a Zoom call or FaceTime with a member of your family. Just chat. And make it just one of those things that you do, because the more connected that you feel, the more supported you will feel. But actually, we are at the start of a new year, and isn't it? It's exciting. But as I said earlier, you know, we also have this opportunity every single day to decide who we are, to decide what we're going to achieve with our lives. And so the first thing that I would say for you is to have your personal vision. What's good? What does good look like for you? And I don't mean, well, I should go and try and get promotion and I should do this and I should do that. But think about what really does it for you. Think about how it's going to feel in 5 years' time when you look back and say, yeah, I had this vision of the life I wanted, and now I've achieved it, and it's amazing, and it looks like this, and it feels like this, and I'm now able to do this job, and I'm able to go to these places, and I live in a house like this, and my relationships are like that. Think about all of those things. Think about what you want for your family. Think about what you want for your health. Think about what you want for your mind and your education. Think about what you want for your career and what you want financially. But more importantly, don't be sidetracked by what other people think is good. Go for what you think is good. And in the beginning, you may get a little bit of pushback, you know, from people saying, oh, no, you should do this, you should do that. But one thing that I've definitely found in the last 5 years of talking to senior leaders is that they've all followed their own path. Now, some of them it may look like a very familiar path, may look like the same path that everybody else has done, but they've done it their own way. And as a result, they feel more comfortable in where they are, which makes them more confident with what they're doing. So have your vision and make sure it's yours. And if you've been procrastinating about something, if you're avoiding doing something that you've been thinking about and it's been a goal for a long time, be honest with yourself. Is it your goal really? Or is it somebody else's? Have a think about your values. You know, environmental social governance is a big topic that is currently being spoken about all around the world. And we think about environmental issues. We think about you know, the fires in Australia and flooding and all of these things, and what companies need to do or change in order to embrace a new way of working. But with that is also the social governance of ESG. It's the how do we treat our people? And what hasn't really been explored in the workplace so much is values, but it is coming. And when you think of the Me Too movement, when you think of Black Lives Matter, when you think of diversity, when we think of all of these things, it's about values. It's about people behaving and acting and having goals which actually match what they truly believe to be right. So have a think about your values, and does your vision and do your goals match your values, your higher values for your family, for your community? is it congruent? Are you living a congruent life? And alongside that, I would say comes your sense of self and your own purpose. Have you thought about what is your purpose? And I don't just mean, you know, my purpose is to get up and do this. What I mean is everybody has a contribution to make in this world. I truly believe everyone has a place and everyone has unique talents. So do you know what your talents are? And are you really using those to your advantage? Or is it something where maybe you're the person in the office that does the social things and everyone goes, oh yeah, you know, it's really good at social stuff. But then you don't really get the promotions for things, or you don't really get, have a think about what it is you're known for. Have a think about what it is that is you. And are you really capitalizing on that? And does your big vision say, do you know what? I'm not just good at this, I'm also good at that. And I'm going to combine the two and show the world how really awesome I am. So have a think about your sense of self and your own purpose. But also, what do you want to be known for? And this is one of the questions I ask a lot when I talk about emotional intelligence, because the responses that we give to things in life, they are a reflection on who we are. And if you don't want to be known for being the moody person in the office who shouts at people, then don't do it. But think about what it is that you're projecting out there in the world and honestly say, as part of your personal vision, is that me? And is that the part of me that I want the world to see? Is that the part of me that I want to be celebrated? The part of me I want to be remembered? Because if it isn't, today's a great day to do something about that. And we're all on a journey, we're all developing all the time. So you don't need to think, well, I don't know how I'm going to let go of some of this stuff. But it all starts with an intention, as with any personal vision, as with understanding more about yourself. It starts with that intention to want to learn and that active learning and resilience that says, do you know what, I'm going to go on a bit of a journey with this and I may not always get it right, but that's okay, because that's what learning is all about. Well, I hope that's been of some help to you. To give a bit of a recap, we talked about mind and about busy brains and about giving yourself some boundaries so that you have some time to relax and get your creative side of yourself really firing. We talked about body, we talked about sleep and making sure you have the right quality of sleep, because that's what's going to support your vision and your goal setting and achievements for this year. We also talked about spirit, and we talked about having a sense of community, so being connected to other people and how you can do that more. And now we've talked about vision, and think big. You know, don't just think small. Don't just think, you know, kind of, well, I could achieve this because that seems achievable. Because I tell you what, and I will tell you, I'll leave you with this last thing. Before I became an ACCA member, I was a cleaner in a hotel. I'd left school with virtually no qualifications because I needed glasses. I didn't know I needed glasses, neither did anyone else. So most of my schooling went by the by. I achieved very little, and I found out at 17 that I couldn't really read or write very well, but it didn't stop me. Once I'd got my glasses, once I'd decided what I wanted to do, I set myself to it and I did it, and I qualified at 23. Now, I now do talks all over the world. I sit on Global Council at ACCA. I've had multi-million-pound businesses, but I will never forget that there was once a time in my life where I was cleaning hotel rooms in Torquay, which is a tourist place in England where I grew up. But I was cleaning hotel rooms and thinking, will I ever earn enough money to stay in a hotel like this? And the answer is, if you have that vision, and if you really put yourself to that, you can do anything. But it all starts with thinking big. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Sharon. I think we just had a great session. First of all, thank you so much for the time, and at the end, summarizing everything for us. It was just, I mean, I use my pen and paper. I'm a little bit, let's just say, backward in terms of technology, but sometimes it just suits to put your thoughts in paper. And I definitely connected with a lot of things, especially on the mindfulness and the busy brain. I guess this has affected a lot of us, especially in this lockdown and during COVID. There's so much happening and there's so much going through our minds that it has actually affected us and affected our well-being. So I appreciate that you actually brought that up and sort of divided in different areas of mindful and body and spirit. So I appreciate that. And just a quick question, and we will at the end open things up for our other attendees to ask questions as well. You did mention that we are at the beginning of the year, and this is the time when people are making those resolutions, or at least this is a time when people look back and say, okay, what have I achieved in 2020 and what do I want to achieve in 2021? And do you feel the kind of how you have divided it into mindful, body, spirit, vision? How can somebody create a good resolution, keeping well-being in mind as well as the thoughts around values and vision and purpose? So what can we achieve in 12 months? So at least when looking back in 2022, we can say, okay, yes, this is what I have done. So probably a different question, I'm not sure.
Yeah, no. So the way I would look at it is you have your vision that goes on for maybe 2 or 3 years, something that you says that maybe it's ultimately I want to be this person in this position, but actually what does that mean? That might be a 5-year plan. So where is that for the next 12 months? And it's a bit like running a business. So it's a bit like saying, well, there's the big vision, the big sort of cash flow, and we're going to grow it to this size and sell it, or we're going to do whatever. But then what we're going to do for the next 12 months? And what's the nuts and bolts of what's going to happen in the next 12 months to at least get me to the first stage? So take the big goals and split them down into smaller goals. So it might be a bit like when you're doing your exams and you go, right, so I'm going to be a partner at PwC. Well, in order to be a partner at PwC, I need to get my exams and I need to get some experience. So I'm going to get a job and start to get a little bit of experience, and I'm going to start my first exam. And you might say for the first year is get the job, start my first exam. So take those big goals, make them into smaller manageable chunks, but also think about how the energy is going to flow around those goals. So if you've got something, for example, you've got you're learning a new trade at work, but you're also taking exams, have a think about how you're going to switch off, because as you say, busy brain, you're now doing 2 intellectual things. What is the bit in between? How are you going to support yourself and actually have some other goals around this, around whether it is going running twice a week, whether it is concentrating on your sleep. And did you know, I mean, you can get apps and things like this that record your sleep and tell you the quality, for example, of the sleep that you're getting. So what are you going to do physically and mentally to support that regime? Because if you can hold the 2 in some level of balance, then you really are it's going to help you so much in achieving those goals. Because else if it's all intellectual stuff, that is a real struggle. And that's where people get burnt out really quickly. Does that help? I'd also say everyone's got to have a social, but
I agree with you. We need to obviously break down our goals and try and see what can be achieved. And I think that's a good plan for you. You lay down a big vision and then you break it down. So
yeah,
I think that's
something you can do that's a bit of fun, but actually it gets your reticular activator in your brain to work really well, is get yourself a PowerPoint slide and drop pictures on it of the life that you want. It's called a vision board. You can do it with cutting pictures out of magazines, or you can do it with finding pictures on the internet and put them on one slide and put them where you can see it every day. And the thing that does is it sets in your mind exactly what it is that you want. But also there's a bit in your brain called the reticular activator, which is your searching function. And what it does is, if you say, for example, if you like yellow cars and you think, I'm going to buy a yellow car, no one's got a yellow car, your brain goes yellow cars and it starts looking for them everywhere. So if you set yourself a vision of what it is you want, then your brain, just by the nature of what it normally does, it's a pattern spotter. You've set it the goal of you know, I want a job doing this. And what will happen is that you will find all of these things that fit that and then go, God, it was so coincidental. Well, it wasn't actually, because your brain is programmed to do that. That's what the reticular activator does. So that's why you're more likely to achieve something if you write it down, or if you actually, you know, set it out pictorially. And a lot of people are visual learners, so that's easier for them to actually literally see their vision. So yeah, writing down goals, very important.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm sure a lot of other people have questions, and we'll just hold those and we'll quickly go to Irada and go through her presentation, and then we'll come back to both of you and have those Q&A session. So Irada, are you ready to present?
Yeah, sure. Just give me 1 second. So let me just try to upload the slides. So hopefully you can all see. 1 second. Yeah, it seems like there's a challenge with uploading slides. Maybe once more.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't go through. So what I will do, I'll share my screen, but I'm not going to be able to see you, most probably. And so I'm just sharing my desktop. Let me know if you see.
Yeah,
yes.
You can see it.
Okay, that's great. So if you have any questions, just jump on to the questions, because I won't be able to see. I'm just sharing my screen. So welcome everyone. So I'm very happy to see all of you. And thanks, Sharon. It was a really great session, and a lot of messages actually aligned with I'm going to talk about in a minute. Just to introduce myself, so I'm a diversity and inclusion leader for Middle East and North Africa across 16 countries at EY MENA. But I also am a facilitator and a certified coach, along with a MENA Mindfulness Champion. So at the moment, I'm teacher in training by the programs University of Oxford, UK, and Mindfulness UK, as a part of the mindfulness-based stress reduction, 8-week program, and mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, which I will talk about a little bit more detail around the mindfulness. And I'm glad that Sharon mentioned about a little bit the busy mind and what it does to us. The agenda of today, just to quickly to go through the challenges of the thriving in a world of too much business that we're all in, and how we build the sustainable working behaviors, and what are the sustainable working behaviors. And in that sense, we will explore mindfulness, and we call it the brain gym. So how do we actually leverage our brain energy the way that it can help us as well? And I think previously you've seen this about the World Economic Forum Top 10 skills. So one of the things that I want to cover today is resilience, stress tolerance, and flexibility elements. So how does it align with modern society and the skill set that we're in? So let's look into the modern society. So what is the modern society at the moment? Let's face it, we're always connected. So, and even working from home make it even harder for all of us to create those boundaries. We are 24/7 available, so our boundaries between work and home has been blurred. We have digital distractions. So we have a social media, we have a lot of messages, notification coming up that really affects on our focus and on clarity as well. An overwhelming amount of information that we get. So we constantly switched on. So it's really hard to have a digital detox and disconnect, rest, and recharge our brain as well. What happens to expectation at work? The workload is increasing. We are expected to have a high quality deliverables, but at the same time within a short period of time. So we have to be always on, always connected to be able to deliver those expectations as well. The way we work has changed. If it was 9 to 6 work hours and then we switch off and we completely switched off to rest and recharge, now it's a different situation. Now there's a most demanding the client, let's say the teams, the leaders, the stakeholders that may reach out to us after working hours as well. And we have to continuously learn to stay future focused, because it's really difficult for us to be future relevant, to have this skill sets, to be able to always be demanding in terms of the skill set, so we can actually be successful in our work as well. The modern living, when we look at the way we live, it's the diet, because we have less time, so it's we get the fast food, the highly processed carbohydrate diet. We're not active enough, just because now it's even more harder with the working from home, sitting in the same chair, and less activity, less physical activity. And in some cases, in some countries, the lockdown can have an impact as well. We have our brain is operating on too little sleep. So if I ask everyone, how many of you have slept minimum of 7 hours, I don't think we will have a lot of hands up at this moment, because we kind of used to operate in a much more less sleep as we are now. Life expectancy is increasing, and we have much more, the wealth side, the much more richer than compared to our parents, for example, or increased material wealth gives us satisfaction, but not makes us happier for a long term. There's a lot of expectation from family and friends because of the social media. We always compare ourselves with the family and friends to see how we do, and the dual income household. So it's much more less than one, let's say, household. One person is working. It's both working and managing a house as well. So all of those, let's say, stress factors that affects the way that we tolerate that stress as well. But is it sustainable? Is it the way that we can use our habits to become future relevant? Because what will be the main human differentiator in the future of work is how we use and direct the energy of our brains. Is how we make sure that our mind has a focus, our mind has a vision, our mind has a strong focus in one area, to be clear what we want to do, to have a purpose, as Sharon said, to have a vision as well. So really looking into the way that we live at the moment. So are we thinking that my current way of working and living, allowing me to perform to my optimal potential, the highest potential? Or do we feel like our stress level, the event itself, the way we handle stress, that has a huge influence, the effects we have on our body, but also on the mind as well? But before that, I want to do a bit of a quiz. And I want to ask, and I don't see any of you, and I think there's a problem with the chat as well. So if you can just unmute yourself and make a rough guess to see like how much we know about our brains, how much we know about the consequences, the way we live, that if we don't take care of that, our brain energy will reduce as well. So the first question I want to ask everyone, so what causes your brain cognitive capacity to drop from a Harvard MBA to the level of 8-year-old child? Any guesses? Just unmute yourself and make a guess.
Hi, this is Lemia.
Yes.
Maybe sometimes you refer to the past or memories from the past.
Okay. So memories. Okay. What else? Anyone else?
Possibly when you're playing with your own kids, so that brings your level
Okay.
down to
Playing with
them.
the kids. Okay.
Yeah.
What else? Anyone else? Any other guesses?
I'm going to go for lack of sleep.
Lack of sleep. Okay. I'm gonna share the responses soon. So let's go to the next question. So millennials were found to rate their levels of what the highest amongst all generations? Any guesses?
Mindfulness.
Mindfulness. Okay. What else? Maybe. Sorry. Just.
Maybe.
I can't hear well. Just say it again.
I believe maybe it's stress.
Stress. Okay. Any other guesses?
Digital savviness.
Digital savviness. Okay. So let's go on to the third question. So what limits
feel good, I would say. The ability to relax and feel good.
the ability to relax and feel good? Okay. Third question. What limits oxygen to your brain, making it slow?
Lack of physical activity.
Lack of physical activity. Okay. What else?
Stress.
Stress.
Overusage of devices, electronic devices.
Okay, overuse of the devices. And the last question, your brain actually shrinks when you don't do this.
When you don't think.
Rest.
Rest.
You don't breathe.
Breathe. Okay. What
when
else?
you don't think. When you don't make your brain to use.
When you don't make your brain use. Okay. So let's explore the responses. So what causes your brain's cognitive capacity to drop from a Harvard MBA to the level of an 8-year-old child is multitasking. So when we multitask, our brain capacity just drops much more less. And how many of us multitask in this time when we need to manage multiple priorities? I think someone said stress. So second question, that's correct. The stress is the highest amongst all generation. What limits oxygen to your brain, making it slow, is the prolonged periods of sitting. And let's face it, with the working from home, we do sit a lot as well. And the fourth question is, your brain actually shrinks. When you don't do this, is it drinking enough water? So how many of you have been, calculating how much you drink water? Because that really helps your brain energy and your brain as well. So how can you become a resilient leader? How can you actually help your brain to have that, time, have that energy? And with the constant flood of information and requests and demanding priorities that we have, whether it's your family, friends, work, mindfulness in the workplace is needed now more than ever. Let's guess what? At EY, we have a huge business case why mindful leadership is important and how it can help us to build high-performing inclusive teams. So when we become mindful, we improve awareness of our judgment or bias. We improve ability to sense what other people are feeling so that we can take their perspective. And emotionally, we talk about emotional agility, emotional intelligence, we become less reactive. We don't react to the situation. We have more considerate action and behaviors. which also will increase our emotional well-being, social well-being, cognitive well-being as well, which then we become a much more better leader to lead high-performing, high-productive teams. And there's also research made externally that if we have a training, mindful leadership training, as a result of the training, it has a 48% of participants increased focus. It has a better personal productivity, and they can perform better under the pressure as well. So as EY, we have a mindfulness community internal. We have even a mindfulness director based in America. So this is how we want to leverage mindfulness in a way that will help us professionally as well. There's a lot of the benefits of mindfulness that I am not going to go through each one, but the biggest one is around the well-being and resilience, that it reduces our stress, it reduces our anxiety, depression. We become less reactive, we more considerate of the actions, we respond to the situation. It also on the well-being, the physical well-being side, it increases our immune system, especially now during the pandemic, we need that. It increases our energy. We will have a better sleep, and our mood and happiness is much more higher level compared to people who don't practice mindfulness on a regular basis. Emotionally, it's we have a better emotional regulation because we can regulate our emotion. We understand them in a different way. We have less bias at judgment. We are more compassionate, more kind, and become a much more better presence. When we, as a leader, it's increase our presence because we become a better listener as well. And from the learning perspective, it increases our attention. We become much more better problem solver, and it also has a huge benefit on around flexibility of thinking. So we have a much more growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset as well. So what is mindfulness? I think a lot of people like the idea of the benefits. So how we can leverage. Mindfulness is having one complete attention to the experience we are having in a very open and non-judgmental way. So it's a little bit of an attention training, but with a compassion, with a kindness of attention. So how do we pay attention to our minds, our bodies, our emotions, feelings, in a way that we are not into the situation, but we are looking ourselves from outside as well? Because what usually happens, we are rarely in the present moment. We usually either in the past, thinking about, ruminating about the past situation, or we are planning about the future. With increased mindfulness, we increase that presence because we are more likely to become in the moment, less thinking about the past and less thinking about the future. Having that moment and making sure that we leverage and connect with our mind, our thoughts, our feelings as well. There are a lot of misconception about mindfulness. So mindfulness is not a quick fix. So if you think that if I can, do one meditation, mindfulness, and a body scan, and then I get all the benefits, that's not true. So it's a consistent, regular basis that really helps on our brain. And there's a lot of research. If you Google, you can see a lot of research how mindfulness affect on our brain and increase neuroplasticity in the neuroscience. There's a huge research around that as well. Sometimes we think we're too busy to practice mindfulness, but mindfulness can be just as easy as 1 minute, just focusing on your breath, pause before you think, to a 40-minute body scan, for example, a meditation. And it's totally secular. It has nothing to do with a religion. It's something that you can take your brain to the gym. And we don't aim to relax. So sometimes people think that with mindfulness, am I trying to relax? That's not true. We're trying to be present. We're trying to observe our thoughts, observe our body, observe our emotion in a way. And it's not about the positive thinking. And it doesn't mean that if we focus on the present moment, we shouldn't think about the future or we shouldn't reflect on the past. And you don't have to sit in a special position to meditate. So you can have a mindfulness as a part of your mindful eating or mindful walking, or having a mindful moment to really focus in that moment rather than thinking about the past or planning about the future. But mindfulness can also help us to observe our thoughts, which helps us to become more resilient. As we said before, that we are looking into our body or mind and our emotions in a different way. So we have that space in between our reaction to have that response, the right response. Sometimes because what happens, there's a pattern. Let's say when you start practicing mindfulness, you may explore that you have a negative self-talk all the time, or maybe you exaggerate your self-blame or catastrophize the situation, or perhaps you just feel like your mind always do the mind reading, and that doesn't help the reality, the situation. So whatever it is, your brain, your mind does, with a mindfulness, you can actually change it. You can actually have that response, an alternative response, so you respond to situation rather to react. I realize, for example, anytime change happens, my mind, my brain, first thing it does, it starts negative self-talk. So the moment I feel like the negative self-talk starts, I constantly observe it, and I then have a choice whether I want to continue this habit, whether I want to continue this pattern, or is there any other alternative, reaction, alternative response that I can take. So it really helps us to look into the situation in a way that you're much more aware, and you're much more I think it's present in that moment, because mindfulness, I think it's the main business case of the mindfulness is that if you're fully present on the job, you will be more effective as a leader. You will make better decisions and you will work better with other people. So amazing benefits that we can take will just taking time to breathe, taking time to stop. And I'm going to teach you just very quick practice that help you. You don't have to have a specific time. If you're interested, I can share more resources where you can find mindfulness practices. But the easiest practice is stop. So whenever you feel you started to have anxiety, you worry, or maybe you feel like you're really overwhelmed by your thoughts and emotion, the first thing you need to do is stop. Noticing your thought pattern. So what are my thoughts? What are my emotions? What is the body sensation I have? Anytime I'm overwhelmed, do I have a heavy chest? Do I feel like I have an increased heart rate? Do I have any emotions? Name those emotions. Is it a worry? Is it anxiety? Is it anger that I'm feeling at this moment? Then T stands for taking a breath. So stepping back from your narrative of thoughts, using as a body, as a breath, as an anchor. So taking a deep breath, just to stopping and now observing yourself in a different way would really help. And then just asking this question. So can I be aware of the thoughts as mental events? Can I just observe this thought or emotion as they rise and disperse? It's always helpful to think about the thoughts, the emotions as something as a clouds. They come and go. They're just moving. So you're not, moving with that thought, but it's more about observing that would help you to really concentrate on the right thing to do. And P stands for proceed. So whatever it is that you need that moment, as you observe your thoughts, observe your body, observe your emotions, you can just proceed with the next action. So what is the next action that I need? Do I need to just have a glass of water? Maybe I'm so overwhelmed that I don't even drink of water. I just need to, feel a bit in the moment. Do I need to call someone? Do I need to write an email that I need to have a take time off? Or maybe something else that you need to proceed. So that will give you a kind of a break from that worry, from that anxiety, from that thought as well. Just to summarize, I guess, what tips and tricks that I can give you during the day to become more resilient by using mindfulness. I think when you wake up, we all have a habit of looking at our phones, checking our emails. Next time you notice yourself doing this, spend 2 minutes when you wake up, just simply noticing your breath. And when you enter your room or starting a call, always do with this stop exercise and practice. Just stop, take a deep breath, observe what's your situation at the moment. What are the thoughts? What are the emotions you have? And try to check in with yourself and your team. Like, how they are feeling? What are the thoughts, emotions they feel as well? And I think we all know that taking a short break is very important. So how can you use that break to mindfully eat or mindfully walk? Or perhaps you just want to have a mindful moment just to sit in silence. And try to observe your own thoughts during the day. Do you have any of this habit? Do you have a habit of negative self-talk? Do you have a habit of self-blaming in the situation, in the stressful situation? Do you have a habit of, let's say, judging or self-blaming, or could be even exaggerating as well? Just be open and in a non-judgmental way, just observe your thoughts, but also observe others if you spot anything that you need to do. And I want to leave you with this quote, and I guess I read it somewhere and I really like it, that if we think our health like our phone, we know that the moment our phone has a less charge, we go and run and find the chargers to charge our phone because we don't want this to switch off. What if we think our health like our phone and accept the fact that it has a limited amount of energy before it needs to recharge? And really looking at our body or health in a way that we look after or take care of our iPhones or other phones, smartphones, that we really give time to recharge and to rest as well. And with that moment, I just want to stop here and to check if anyone has any question, any reflection, and happy to proceed with that.
Thank you so much, Radha. I think after that presentation, I'm going to stop doing a lot of things. So, I see that how you have explained stop and how to notice patterns and to take a step back and observe your thoughts and proceed accordingly. So I think stop is going to be a new buzzword for me, especially going forward, because I do have, personally, I have this challenge of having too much going. It's a busy brain, so I certainly need to practice that mindfulness. So I guess I mean I will obviously open up to the floor for questions, but I certainly feel difficult in switching off. So, especially with, when you were going to the office, I mean, currently we are working from home. So when we were going to the office, when you switched off and are going back to your home, that's the kind of point for me that used to be my mindfulness. It was my time to just think, stop, and not sort of think of anything or doing things. But obviously that part is now missing. So how do you think that we can, obviously now with these circumstances, with a lot of people under lockdowns as well, so how do you maintain that mindfulness, or how do you stop doing things?
Yeah, I think it's a very important question that we all need to ask. And one of the things that I kind of we try to kind of educate our people to do is to have a transition ritual because it's automatically transition from work and life happened when we were in the office. So we leave the office, we drive or use the transport. So that was our time when we were switching off. We become more mindful. So we kind of physically detach ourselves from work. But now with working from home, we don't have that luxury. So think about what transition ritual you can start doing. So one of the things that we do, for example, is asking people to share their transition ritual. So it could be that you have this workspace. Some of us like working from the dining table. So how do you switch off the laptop, clean the space, perhaps put some music so it feels like now it's the home time. Have that a bit of walk, maybe just have like a 5-10 minute walk around the house, or if there's a place that you can go just to switch off, so you're mentally kind of having that time with yourself. Could be that so sometimes what I do is like I have a work clothes that mentally I kind of, whenever I start, I feel like I need to have that work clothes. Perhaps some of people still in PGs and enjoying working from bed, but it's always good to mentally have that, distinction between work and life, and having that, transition that also helps. Could be that just before I finish the work, so I like to plan, so planning for the next day, so writing to my to-do list for the next day, so I don't have to think about the next day anytime, so I can just put everything in one paper, and then I feel like, okay, now I can switch off completely. But also, it's also difficult to do this if you're just one person and the rest of the team doesn't disconnect. So I think it's also good to have an agreement with your team that what time as a team you can all disconnect, and what happens if something urgent happens. So for example, if there's a client urgency, rather than emailing each other, you just perhaps call. Rather than WhatsApping each other, you just perhaps call. So having some kind of a ground rules for to be comfortable that we are all reliable, we are all trustworthy, we are visible, connected team, that let's agree on the ground rules. So what's the time that we all disconnect, and what happens if something urgent needs to be done? How are we going to reach out to each other? What is the best communication channels? So I think having those moments is really important and crucial. And it's sometimes, as personally, I know that, having sustainable behavior, it's hard to maintain just because we still get used to all this amount of information. Everything is so accessible. It's such a easy way to like log into laptop, do a bit of job, but make sure that you're not demonstrating the wrong behavior for your team as well if you're a leader. So making sure that you delay delivery of emails. So one of the things I think in Outlook, everyone has an access. You can delay your emails to the next day. So even if you're working in the evening, at night, sometimes this is my productive hours. So I like to finish things at night, but everything that I sent, I make sure that I delay delivery to the next morning. So my team will receive it the next day. So yes, so hope that makes sense. Noman, does this answer your question?
It does. It does. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Sorry if there is any question that anybody wants to bring up, they can certainly just raise their hand, and I will give you the chance as well. And I'll put this one to both of you, and I'll go to Sharon first. I know that a lot of people have made resolutions of trying to change jobs or do job search that they can do in terms of mindfulness, or what are those things that they can possibly do which can help them with their job search, and how they can possibly do it without getting stressed, because a lot of people are, for example, some of them even are jobless. So what are those recommendations? How how can they bring some sort of order in their life? So Sharon, if I go to you first, and then we move to Irada.
So I think actually what Irada said might help with a bit of this when it comes to stopping. So so you want to go for your job search. Have a think about what an ideal job for you might look like, but also don't get too sort of too focused just on it has to be that type of job. Think about your broader skill sets and be open to trying and applying for a variety of different jobs, because you never know. There could be something else there that when you actually get into an interview, you think, no, I could really see myself doing this actually. So yes, get focused on, I want to be this, but don't try and control too heavily how you're going to get there at the moment, because these are very interesting times. And so I would say broaden your search and just try a few different things. Say, well, yeah, I've done a bit of that, so I'm going to have a go at that. I'll put myself forward, because you can always say no. If you don't want the job at the end of it, you can always say no. And have that stop and pause and really have a think about being a little bit more creative on that. And I'd also say is get somebody else involved as well, because if you're thinking, well, no, I've always been in audit, so what I would say is go and speak to a few other people and ask what your skills are. Ask what they like about you. Ask what you bring to a team, and put that onto your CV and put that into your interviews, and have a think with your job search around your broader personality. And if you're not really sure, or particularly if everything's getting you down a bit, then yeah, go to your friends, go to your family, go to the people who know you the best and ask them for support with that. Ask them to really get excited about your future and about the things that you're good at. That's what I'd say.
That's I think that's valuable feedback, and this is where I sort of talk about our super connected community, that we have this super connected community within our network, not just within our network, within our families, within an expanded super connected community. Irada, I know Sharon may have touched upon a lot of points, so would you like to add something there?
Sure. I think when we look into the future, and I think the future of work is more about transferable skill. So how you can consider things that you can learn now, and there's a lot of learning you can do online at the moment, so it can help you to become a future relevant. So transferable skills, so maybe the job that you really want is not available, but something else that can help you to learn a little bit differently. And the other thing, I guess, get a mentor. So this is a community, an amazing community that you establish. Think about the people. Have you added their LinkedIn profile? Do you like their LinkedIn profile? Is this someone that you want to become in the next couple of years? Have an informal conversation. You don't have to call it as a formal mentor, but have a chat, have a call, have a bit of a chat around, what you want to do. So sometimes when we want to set a vision, when we want to understand what's our next, thing to do, maybe we're not clear. Maybe leveraging this connection, leveraging this network would help you to define what you want to do. So I think we all have to have, I guess, mentors, and I have mentors from different industries, from different places, and not necessarily to have it on continuous, like longer term. It could be just one question I ask, they answer, and that could open up horizons for me. So yeah, definitely leveraging the communities and networks and getting those, if you have a question, asking those questions to the people that you look up to. That's also important.
Can I also add something on the mentoring as well? So if you're an ACCA member, we have a mentoring platform that you can access as well. So you can actually find people from different parts of the world, different industries. So there's another network you can check into. And also, don't just think about people when you ask for mentoring that are above you in your career. When it comes to technology, if you've been in a job a long time, you're used to using perhaps one maybe quite old type of tech, go find yourself a 20-something that knows all the new stuff and get yourself genned up on it. You don't have, they call it reverse mentoring. It's just mentoring. but yeah, think broader. Yeah, good one.
Fair point there. So anyone that would like to jump in now and ask a burning question there? I think everybody is going through their mindfulness right now. But
I've got a question, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Hello? Yeah, can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay, so Irada, right? Irada? Did I pronounce it right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, Irada. Thank you for the words. It's amazing, actually. And I think you have very well complemented what Sharon was explaining as well. We needed that side of the mindfulness. And I've always wondered exactly what is mindfulness. I didn't look it up a lot as I'm very busy doing other things. However, I like to incorporate these things into work. And you've touched on millennials, and you talked about that millennials are mostly stressed. So my question is, what do you think they are stressed from? Do you think they are stressed from multitasking? Because I personally think they are used to multitasking. They're like born with these devices and everything. So I don't think that's what's causing them the stress. Rather, I think what's causing them the stress is the inability to be flexible at work, because they value flexibility mostly. And we, as a different generation, we're not allowing them to be as flexible. I actually think they could be the highest performers because they are very efficient in multitasking. I don't think they get stressed from multitasking because they're very organized. They have their tasks and technology and reminders and everything. So they don't think a lot of the task. Everything is like automated for this millennials. So that's my opinion, but what do you think?
Yeah, great question. I think there are multiple things that make an individual, a human being, stressed, and there's a lot of triggers. And obviously, we can say that with the social media, with the peer comparison, and added a bit of a loaded information. So when we, for example, like I don't know, 20 years ago, when we look into the information, we went to the library, we could like search it. Now it's in 1 second. You get hundreds and hundreds of articles in one. So it's a lot of amount of information that can also cause a stress. And also, let's say decision fatigue. So a lot of decisions we make every single day, every single moment as well. So what we can eat, what we can, choose, where do we go for, somewhere like, a restaurant or cafe, or even where do we get our coffee, what type of milk we use for the coffee. So it's a lot of a decision fatigue that is also can cause distress. But I agree that I think the expectations are different. So if we look at the parents' generation, they had much more clarity. There was less ambiguous world. Now it's ambiguous world, uncertainty. Um, we don't know what's going to happen in the next week, next month, or the next year. And that can give us a lot of anxiety. And I think the main stressor potentially could be this uncertain world that we are in now, that we have sometimes zero control. And just focusing on the control that we have is sometimes really difficult. So I would say it's not just about the multitasking that may gives the stress, but it's all about in this world of uncertain times, ambiguous times, how do we thrive? How do we become resilient? That's the main question. I don't know if Sharon, Noman, if you want to add anything as well.
So what I would say is that the impact of social media has been quite a bit bigger on that generation than on any others, and it's hit them. Yes, they've grown up with it, but it's hit them with way too much information. I agree, but also a lot of responsibility for the future, and a lot of judgment around what they're doing and whether that's really going to be helping them and helping everybody else. When I talk to millennials about their goals and about what they really want to achieve, a lot of them are so overloaded with it could be this, it could be this, it could be this, that they don't know what they want because they have too big a choice. And so it's like, well, maybe I should be doing this and maybe I should be doing that, and it's just too much. Whereas for older generations, what's happened is that we are anchored in certain things. So we made decisions, maybe with less information, but we learned a lot from making those decisions. And we built our lives and our careers around those decisions. And so we are anchored in certain things, whereas they are unanchored to anything. And because they can go anywhere in the world and be anything and do anything, which we all could, by the way, just saying, but they actually know that and they see it. And you can imagine as a 40-year-old thinking, oh, yeah, I could go anywhere in the world and do anything and be anything. That comes from a very different position than if you're 13 and you're posed with that. Because, again, you don't want to get it wrong, because then you're looking at it on social media and there's all these people who are doing really well at these things. So you've got the judgment and the lack of anchoring. And I think that's what gives them a bigger struggle, to be honest.
Thank you. I think both the points were quite valid, and definitely triggers a lot of brain waves as well. Hammam, did you have a question, or I understand that we are almost nearing our time. The session has been amazing. I certainly have a few more questions, and maybe I'll pose one last one, or maybe if the time allows, maybe one more. But we did talk about this mindfulness. We talked about having too much of options available to us. So a lot of people right now, possibly because we talk about active learning and resilience, if I say that we should specialize more or we should widen our horizon more, so what would be the advice from Sharon, yourself, and Irada, yourself? Is it that we go in and specialize more, or is it, shall we go broader? What's your advice?
My advice is yes. So what I think you should do is both. But what it is it's about understanding that there are all these options, because if you specialize too much and you just sit there and you never re-examine any of your other options or potentials, then that's where a lot of people end up struggling to then find work, because the option that they've taken and totally focused on to the exclusion of everything else has become too restricted and is maybe no longer available. So what I would say is be playful. Learn lots of things learn a little bit about a lot of different things, and when something takes you, go with it. And don't worry too much about the judgment of what if I'm no good at that or whatever. Go down a path, and if you think, well, do you know what, actually I've learned quite a lot from that, but I don't really think it's me, well, take that on your journey with you. I mean, I've done so many different jobs in so many different things, and I can honestly say that I've taken something from everything with me on this. And so it is about enjoying life and actually experiencing a few of those things. And don't worry if you're no good at it. And if you try a few things and go, do you know what, that really wasn't for me, well, fine, you've learned something. But I think we get very het up with, I'm going to do this and I have to be really good at it and I have to achieve things to a certain standard. Well, anybody who's seen me play the guitar knows that you can get lots of enjoyment out of something, even if no standard has been met. So I think it is a bit of both. I'd say experience lots of things, and then when something really takes you, go with it.
Thank you, Sharon. Irada, what would you recommend?
Yeah, I think I agree with Sharon. I guess it's really important to define this technical and non-technical skill, if that makes sense. So in the technical one, having a holistic approach to understanding like where the world is going, what is the future, the digital future looks like, and then going into the gap that you feel like you want to learn, you want to get a bit more in depth as well, but making sure that as you enjoy that work. So you try different things and find out what you really enjoy doing, that you're good at, that you can explore a little bit more. But it's also having a general overview around where the vision, what's going to happen, what's the future, what's the digital look like, and then looking into those like gaps that you may want to develop would be helpful.
Great. I think probably that was a question in a lot of minds. At least it was for me. One last question, because we still have 5 more minutes, and that would be, what would be that one key takeaway if you want to get that mindfulness? And I mean, it could be one, it could be more, but as long as we can keep it short. So Irada, what would you say? What can be that one thing that we can all integrate into our daily life, which can help us with our mindfulness?
I think it's pause. Just pause, take a deep breath, and that could help. Having a break in between, really connecting with our mind and body anytime we feel like overwhelmed. Just pause.
Sharon?
I would say do one thing every day that your future self will thank you for. So whether that is getting a good night's sleep, whether that is having fun with some friends on Zoom like this, whether it's doing something for your career, but do one thing that's for you every day.
Brilliant. I think that's a good takeaway from both of you, and I completely agree. Pause. We should take a pause. I've been suffering from it. I haven't taken too many pauses, and that has definitely had some impact on me. And Sharon, I agree. We should look into how do we see ourselves in the future. So even if that's just getting a good night's sleep is something that can help you, that would be great. So that's it, everyone. We are short of time, and I hope I was able to get some of those questions that you had in your mind out there. But we would love that. I mean, first of all, thank you everyone for joining. But at the same time, we would love to get your feedback on topics, on speakers, on if you have any questions. We can both Sharon and Irada are quite helpful, and I'm pretty sure they will be. If you have any question that we were not able to answer today, maybe we can pose it to them individually. So feel free to reach out to Waqas and Kazi Waqas, and he will forward those questions to them. And thank you so much for joining. Waqas, any last words you would like to say?
Thank you very much, Noman and Irada and Sharon. I would say an eye-opener session for most of us. We have been doing technical sessions in the past, and when we were in the phases of designing this session with Irada and Sharon, we knew that it's going to be a very exciting one in terms of a non-technical but eye-opener, especially what they mentioned about vision, the stop technique, and some other points. I believe we don't have more questions, so I would say thanks a lot. We will send you a feedback form on the email. We will also send the recording of the session so that you can share it with your peers. And in the feedback form, what I'm thinking is we will also include future topics. So let us know which other topics you would like to hear. With this note, thank you everyone. Thank you so much, and take care, all the speakers and moderators.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Rad. Thank you. Have a great day ahead. Thank you. Thank you, Kaz. Bye. Bye, everyone.